Hello, it's Life Talk for Monday, July 24th, 2017. I'm Mark Crutcher. And normally this time, Renee introduces herself, but as you can tell, Renee's not here today.
Renee's not here, sorry to say.
But for those of you who've watched Life Talk for over the years, you recognize Cherie Johnson. And Cherie used to be co-host for several years on Life Talk, many years actually.
Many years.
Until we got rid of you. we couldn't take it any longer.
But it's good to be back.
It is good to have you back. Nothing's wrong with Renee. She, one of her kids had to go to the orthodontist today, so she had to be out for that, one of her youngest, her daughter. And so I called Cherie, and she ran up from Grapevine, Texas, where she lives, and which is just south of Denton, and agreed to fill in.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming. Cherie, the reason I wanted to have you on was because, and we've talked about this back before when you were on the show. You were involved with the Crisis Pregnancy Center in Grapevine for a number of years.
In Duncanville.
Which is another suburb of Dallas-Fort Worth. And so you have a lot of experience. And one of the things that I want to talk about today is the relationship between crisis pregnancy centers and abortion and adoption. Now, as you know, and I want to make sure the audience understands this so they understand the context that this show is being held in. Nobody is a bigger supporter of adoption than I am. I have an adopted daughter, and we waited almost 5 years to get her, spent a lot of money. She's been as Cherie will tell you, she's been the light of my life for 27 years now, and
she can do no wrong.
She can do no wrong. There's nothing she can do that's wrong, you know. And so there's nobody that's a bigger believer in adoption than I am. But we've got to be realistic about adoption as it relates to the abortion issue. And I know that you've seen this before. And I want to make the point, and then you can elaborate on it as we go along here. Contrary to what you hear a lot of pro-lifers say, that the solution to the abortion issue is adoption. That we just got to go into these crisis pregnancy centers or go in front of these abortion clinics and talk these girls into placing their babies for adoption. That is absolutely 100% wrong. That is not adoption. Contrary to what people may want you to believe, adoption is not the solution to the abortion issue. And the reason for that is very simple. When a young woman is in a crisis pregnancy situation, she comes to a CPC that you might counsel with her, or she goes to the abortion clinic. Her thinking is not that she doesn't want to have a baby. Her thinking is that she doesn't want to be pregnant.
That's right, a lot of times, yes.
And adoption doesn't deal with that issue. Adoption only deals with the baby. And to you and me, as pro-lifers, that's the central issue, is the care of that child. But that's not what's central in her mind.
It's not.
And what she's thinking about is, I just don't want to be pregnant.
I don't want to be pregnant. Once in a while, it is, I'm too young to have a baby, I'm too this and that and the other. And then when adoption is suggested, they very often, in my experience, gosh, big percent, 95% say, well, I'm not going to carry a baby and then give it away.
Right.
But then I say, well, then you'd hire a goon to chop it up, I guess, right? And no, I wouldn't do that, but because they don't know what they don't know what going to get an abortion is. But they're opposed to giving the baby away after they carry it.
Yeah, and I've heard that. I've dealt with girls over the phone here, women over the phone saying, oh, I could never carry a baby for 9 months and then place it for adoption. But you could carry it for 9 months and then have its head ripped off.
Yeah, exactly.
Or thrown into a dumpster to be eaten by rats or whatever.
But they don't want anybody to find out they're pregnant. That's right. They don't want to be pregnant. They can't be pregnant. You know, my boyfriend will break up with me. My parents will kill me. Right. You know, I'll get kicked out of school. Everything you can name, I can't be pregnant.
Right. You know, when you mentioned a moment ago, you said you start talking to these girls and they say, well, I'm just too young to have a baby. Or this is not the right time in my life to have a baby. I always think about in sales, my background is in sales and marketing, primarily in the auto industry, but I worked in other industries too. But there's a thing called the hidden objection. So when you're selling somebody a product, let's say you're selling them a car, and they say, well, the car is too expensive. And you say, well, if we could get the car to where it wasn't too expensive, would you still buy it? Would you buy it then? Well, I'd still have to think about it a little bit. Okay, so that it being too expensive is not the issue. Because I'm already telling you, if I could solve that problem, you're still saying you wouldn't buy it. The problem is I haven't sold it yet. I haven't sold the car yet. But so you have to go down these layers. And so if they say it's too expensive and you take that off the table by saying, well, I can get it into your budget, and they still say they won't buy it, then you haven't found out what the real reason is they're not buying it. They don't like the color, they don't like you, they don't like the dealership, whatever it might be. But you got to go down through those layers and get rid of all those hidden objections till you find the real objection. When you're in a crisis pregnancy center environment, and I've talked to you about this many, many years ago, you got the same problem. So this girl says, I'm not really ready to have a baby. And you propose a solution. You don't have to have a baby.
Yep.
Somebody else would be tickled to death to have your baby. Then they don't say, okay, well, then I'll go ahead and have the baby.
No.
If they don't say, then that's not the problem. And when you peel away all these layers, you inevitably get to the point where they just don't want to be pregnant.
That's right.
That's
Can't
the
be
bottom
pregnant.
line. I just, for whatever reason, I'm embarrassed. Like I say, my parents will kill me, which you hear these, especially teenage girls say, my parents will kill me. And when you ask them, well, let me ask you a question. Would your parents really kill you? Well, no, they wouldn't kill me. Okay, would they even beat you up? Would they? No, they wouldn't. Okay, so that's not really the
They
problem.
might be a little upset.
They'd be upset,
Yeah.
just like we all would be.
Yeah.
But they're not going to kill you. They're not going to beat you up. And, for the most part, that's the case. So what it always, when you peel back all those layers, 90% of the time what you find out, they just don't want to be pregnant. That's the bottom line. Is that not right? Is that what you found?
That's totally right. They can't be pregnant this shouldn't have happened. It couldn't have happened. I can't believe it happened. I can't be pregnant. I won't be pregnant. And I got to do whatever it takes to get out of this mess right now.
And it has nothing to do with all this other stuff because you can solve all that. I can't afford it. Okay, we'll help you financially. I don't have any place to go. We'll find you a place to live.
Yep, we can solve all of it. Help
Yeah.
them all free of charge.
Baby clothes are expensive. We'll get you all the free baby clothes you want.
Car seat, crib, you
Right.
name it, we got it.
So you peel back all those layers, you always get down to the same thing. You just don't want to be pregnant. Unfortunately, adoption doesn't do that either. It doesn't solve that problem because you're still pregnant.
Yep.
And I've had this theory. Now, this is obviously a hypothetical that couldn't possibly happen. But let's just say that it could. You answer me this question. Let's say you're sitting in front of one of these young ladies at a CPC or in front of an abortion clinic or wherever it might be, and you have determined that her problem is that she just doesn't want to be pregnant. So she's going to have this abortion. She's going to kill this baby. What if you could say to her, look, I've got this magic pill right here. If you take this pill, within 30 minutes, your baby will go through the entire gestational period. You'll be effectively 9 months pregnant. You'll give birth, and you can leave that baby with us and walk away and go home. How many of those? What I'm telling you is I bet 99% of those girls would take that pill because now it does away with the pregnancy, right?
The problem solved.
The problem solved. It wasn't the baby to start with. It was the pregnancy.
But I'll tell you another thing. I think about 8 out of 10, when they see that baby, they want to keep him or her.
Well, I've said this for years. I've written about this. As you know, an unplanned pregnancy does not automatically produce an unwanted baby.
That's right.
I'm gonna guess, Cherie, that in the history of the world, the billions of babies that have been born in the history of the world, I'm gonna bet that 75% of them were unplanned.
At least.
At least
Right?
75% were unplanned. But I'm gonna bet you that only a very small percentage of them were unwanted. Those are two different things.
Yes.
They're not the same thing. And this is what Planned Parenthood and the rest of the abortion industry profits on, is they've got all their clients out here convinced that an unplanned pregnancy is an unwanted baby. That's what they've got them convinced of.
That's right.
And
we'll solve your problem.
we can solve your problem. That's exactly right. And so I want people to push adoption as much as anybody. I mean, like I said, I'm a big believer in adoption. I've got an adopted daughter.
And adoption, don't they make it as difficult as possible with the cost, who can adopt one?
It's unbelievable.
I've heard the red tape and the hoops to jump through, or
And the
people
money.
give up the money, unbelievably expensive.
Well, let me tell you something, Cherie. I honestly believe that if let's say every baby that was born in America today was immediately taken over, custody was given to that baby to the state. Let's say in this case the state of Texas, and then the mother who gave and the father who gave birth to this baby had to apply to the state to adopt that baby. Most people couldn't adopt their own baby.
Wow, never thought about that. That's for
Most
sure.
people could not adopt their own child. So that's how difficult we make adoption in this country. And I'll tell you, I've looked at the adoption and the foster care system in the United States, and it's a disgrace what's going on here.
Is the abortion industry behind that at all?
I'm sure they are, because if you started coming out here to pass new laws to solve some of these problems that afflict abortion in the foster care system, I'll guarantee you Planned Parenthood and that crowd would be some of the people that oppose this. Because what you have to remember, and this is what I used to, when I'd look at Sheila when she was a little baby, and I'd think, this baby girl means the entire world to me and to my wife, right? And to our whole family. Yep. She's been the center of our family. She's the youngest girl, grandchild. She's the only girl grandchild on one side of the family. And so she's spoiled. I mean, you'd expect her to, not too much.
In a good way.
Right. But all she meant to Planned Parenthood was about $400 lost profit.
Yep.
That's what that child meant to Planned Parenthood. And in the abortion industry, lost profit is the unforgivable sin. These people don't believe in sin. They don't believe in all those concepts that you and I believe in. But they believe in that one.
Yeah.
A lost profit is the unpardonable sin in the abortion industry. And so anything that cuts into that, they're going to fight tooth and nail against. And we see that all the time in the legislation that's proposed in state legislatures to regulate abortion. These people fight it tooth and nail.
And that's why they hate CPCs, because
Right.
hopefully everyone that walks through those doors, that child is saved, the woman is educated, that this is not the answer. It'll ruin your life forever. If you're 40 years down the road, you'll never get over aborting
Right.
that child. But to, like you say, the abortion industry, and they hate adoption, they hate CPCs, because every one of those saved babies cuts into their profit, the bottom line, and that's all they care about.
Every born baby is a lost profit. Every one. And that sounds cynical, but that's the reality. You working this long enough like I have, well over 30 years I've been doing this full time.
Yep.
You become cynical because you see how absolutely morally bereft these people are. They're totally morally bankrupt. And every born baby is a lost profit.
Yep.
And that's especially true if it's a baby born to a woman that would have considered abortion. If she's a woman that would have never considered it, they don't even see that as a lost profit because it was never there to. But that's why they hate crisis pregnancy centers so much. And I want to point something out. They always say that they support women having choices. That's what this is about, right?
It's one choice.
Well, let's say that there's an abortion clinic in a community, but no crisis pregnancy center. A crisis pregnancy center now comes into that community. Did the women in that community now have more choices or fewer choices?
More.
More choices. Yet that abortion clinic will fight tooth and nail to keep that abortion clinic out of that community.
That's right.
We've seen this time and time again. So the only choices that you want to see expanded are the choice to have an abortion. And last week we did a show, I don't know if you saw it or not, with the doctor who's part of this movement to reverse RU-486. And they've had now several hundred babies, women that have taken RU-486 and then changed their mind. And the abortion industry tells them it's too late. Well, now these doctors are doing this procedure where they are able to reverse the effects of RU-486 if they get to her fast enough. And they've had hundreds of babies born as a result of this procedure. And we've had this doctor on several times in the past, and we had him on again last week. The pro-aborts are out here trying to pass state legislation to prohibit them from doing that.
Imagine my surprise.
Yeah, aren't you shocked at that? But the fact is, again, if, let's say there's an abortion clinic here and they're using RU-486, and there's no doctor nearby that can reverse it, and then all of a sudden a doctor comes into that area that has experience with reversing RU-486, are the women in that community now given more choices or fewer choices?
More.
More. So why do they fight those women having those choices?
Because their plan is one choice only.
Right.
And that's death.
You can choose
Money in their
abortion,
pocket.
but you can't unchoose it. That's not tolerated. And so this idea that they're for choice is pure nonsense. But I just wanted and yeah, one other thing before we leave, we're just about out of time. But one other thing I wanted to bring up, and you've heard me say this before, and I guess maybe I'm way out there on the radical edge talking about this particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
This will never happen, but my view is that someone who's pro-choice should be legally prohibited from adopting a baby. I don't think people who are pro-choice should be allowed to adopt a baby. By law, they should be prevented.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you allow someone to take a newborn baby who says that a week earlier that child had no right to life?
Mm-hmm.
That child did not even have a right to be born. Oh, but I want him now. I wouldn't let them have these babies.
I wish you could be in charge of that. And
Don't you wish I was?
I do.
Don't you think if I was king of the world, we could solve a lot?
We could solve a lot of stuff. I know one of my favorite rock stars growing up, she was just, donated to Planned Parenthood, pro-abortion, and then adopts, I think, 2 babies. I'm like, how does that happen?
Right.
How do you you shouldn't have the right to do that. I have thought that. And that you would be fighting for the biological mothers
to kill those babies.
Yeah, right, to kill the child, but yet you're gonna adopt.
Right.
I don't get it, but I wish you were in charge of that.
Yeah, I wish I was too. But anyway,
you could solve a lot of stuff.
I would prohibit them from even being legally allowed to adopt. And I know there's going to be people that watch this. There may be some pro-life people that watch this who think I'm outrageous for saying that.
Abortion's outrageous.
Abortion is that's the biggest outrage
That's right.
that we'll ever have. Anyway, we're just about out of time. I appreciate your filling in on
Anytime.
such
Enjoy it.
short notice here, and I'm sure we'll have you back next time Renee can't show up or doesn't show up, or whatever.
Skips out.
Skips out.
She's out
She
partying.
does that so often.
Miss you, Renee.
Right. Nope. She just had this just came up today. She had to take her child to the orthodontist.
I understand that.
Anyway, be sure to write all your questions in. If you have anything you want us to cover, let Renee know. She's the one that watches over all this, and she very often comes up with the subject matters that we talk about on Life Talk. So if you have a comment or a question, or especially if you want to comment on some of the things that I've said today, be sure and let her know, and maybe we'll cover them on the show. And we've talked to you before about the possibility that even if you can't be here in person, like Cherie was today, we can have you on by phone if we have the right kind of subject, the right subject we want to talk about. So be sure and let us know. Anyway, until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yay.